Guys, I'd like to welcome you to episode 6 of the Fight Game Podcast. That's what happens when you have 2 podcasts. The Fight Game Podcast. Today, I'm very excited to have a guy in here who just opened up a Brazilian Jiu Jitsu academy right next to my house. That was very kind of you.
That's how we did it. We were identifying. We're like, where are the podcasts?
Yeah.
Where are the people that are in marketing making this thing happen? And we identified the spot and selected it based on that.
Please say that you've been watching every episode of Fight Game, and you were like, I have to get close to this. It's actually less expensive to move out west and do the academy there, but you said this podcast is so good that you're willing to take the extra bill and just have
exactly.
it here.
15-minute drive. It's perfect.
I'm just letting you know right now. By the way, this is Tad Merryman. I haven't said that yet, but I'm going to Tad's school. It's Alpha JJ.
Yep.
Right. Why'd you leave the Brazilian part out?
Well, so it's Alpha. We go by both. It's technically Alpha Brazillian Jiu Jitsu.
Okay.
But
the URL.
The URL.
Right.
So it's trying to get the right URL and everything. Ended up getting Alpha JJ as the web page.
Okay.
That worked. I mean, and everybody at this day and age, everybody that can use a computer understands how hard it is to get the name that you want.
Well, I did an email, so I sent out, because if you do your URL search, there's people that are just parked on it. The person who's on Alpha BJJ isn't using it for anything.
He's not.
And so I sent out the emails like, hey, like, what's it going to take for me to get this URL? Like, what do you want for it? And he was like, never responded. So,
of course.
Which it seems like poor business. Like if you're parked on a URL, like the whole reason why you do this is so that people will find it and want to
buy it
and purchase it from you for so that you can extort money out of them.
Extort
for the web page that they want.
He's using the right word.
Yeah,
that's exactly what those bastards do, and I don't blame them. Look, you had a good idea, and you grabbed it, and you're looking to make as much money as possible. I get it. Hope there's no ethics in this game. I'm just saying. So you didn't end up getting that.
So I didn't end up getting that. I do have Alpha Brazilian Jiu Jitsu, and I'm just going to redirect that to the webpage.
Okay.
But Alpha Brazilian Jiu Jitsu, and I think half the people I know can't spell Brazilian correctly. It's like one L. It's one L. It took me. I was a purple belt before I knew that.
That's awesome.
That is amazing. And when you started the school, by the way, guys, it's in Chantilly. You want to give the give out. Well, we said the URL, but say it again: the URL and then also the location.
It's alphajj.com, and the location is 4455 Brookfield Corporate Drive.
Oh,
and
right there.
That's Suite 200.
Suite 200. I know a couple of businesses that operate out of there. I'm trying to think. What are you guys right next to?
There's a Montessori school. There's a music academy next door.
Okay.
There's a daycare. The restaurant depot is kind of across the street. Like where if you know where like Tropical Smoothie and sort of all that stuff is right there. And the Tropical Smoothie is pretty new.
Dude, that's great for your business, by the way, to have a tropical smoothie right there. I'm sure.
I love smoothies.
Yeah,
they're like the best post workout. Used to go to like Jira a lot. In Centerville.
Yep.
That's where I get. That is
one of the
boba tea.
That is one of the best Korean bakeries you can go to.
I love the people there are awesome.
They're
amazing.
Awesome. Yeah. So you started this school. Now, can you kind of talk about? Well, let's start right at the beginning. How did you get into Brazilian Jiu Jitsu?
So Brazilian Jiu Jitsu. So it's something I wanted to do when I was an undergrad. Like I wrestled all through high school. I was pretty good at wrestling in high school. Then I went to college, but money's short in college, and there's plenty of other free activities to do while you're in your undergrad. So it wasn't until I graduated and moved up to this area and I was, gained some weight, and I was like, all right, I need to get back in shape. What's something that, because I don't want to start from scratch.
Right.
So what's something that kind of my wrestling background will lend itself to?
Okay.
And so I found Brazilian Jiu Jitsu and ended up starting to train with David Jacobs out of the Gold's Gym right there.
Yeah,
off of 28. Yeah. So I found him.
I took a class from Coach Rock. At that specific one.
Oh, you did?
When they were at the Golds. Yeah.
Yeah. So with the first time or the second time, because he was at Gold's Gym 2 times.
It was probably the second time because it was sometime around 2007, 2008.
Okay, we may have been in the same class.
So wait,
it's possible.
So you're saying so you graduated, or I'm sorry, when did you actually start going to the Gold's Gym? What year?
Ooh, I'd say it was probably around 2006, 2007.
Wow, I was just getting out of the military and starting to go to Fightworks.
Fightworks. Okay.
That's crazy. So we're all kind of starting.
Yeah,
at
it's the same generation.
Yeah,
Wow.
absolutely.
Cool. All right, so you were training out of there. Tell us about the experience there.
Yeah, so it's one of those things, right? So like in high school when I wrestled, I did pretty well. I got 4th in the state, North Carolina, in sort of the top division, 4A. And I kind of was like, who does martial arts for real? Let's talk about it. It's like me growing up, it was like the kids who, it was like the anti-bullying movement. Those are the people who put their kids in the programs. And so I was like, these guys are going to be like not real athletes. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like I'm going to go in, I'm going to wrestle them. I'll show them what's up, right? Like I kind of had like that attitude going in. And I just got my ass kicked by like these guys that in 11 years ago I was 11 years younger, and these are guys that like looking at them, you'd think, hey, I could take that guy if I needed to, but you get out there and you learn that like, okay, this isn't just who's stronger and who can hold who down. It's very technical. It's human chess, and so. That was like, all right, that's sort of a new experience. And it's funny because there's 2 types of people that get into jiu-jitsu. They're the ones that like go in and they think that they're going to be like a natural at it. And then they find out that like, wow, there's a lot to this.
Yes.
And then they get addicted to it. And that's kind of like the boat that I'm in. And then there's people that, like they're not necessarily interested in sparring all the time, but they love just sort of the experience of, just learning it and picking it up over time, and both are great. So I was kind of in the first category.
Okay. Very cool.
It's a good category to be in, I think.
Yeah. Now,
It was kind of like, I feel like at that time, everybody was in my category because there weren't schools that really lended themselves to the second category all that well back then.
Right.
Yeah.
Which was better. And we were talking to last episode 5, we had Coach Tony Waldecker, and I don't know if you know anything about Tony. But he's one of the guys who brought Brazilian Jiu Jitsu with Helson Gracie here to the DC, Maryland, Virginia area. And which, by the way, stay tuned. You're in good company because not only do we have Tony and other amazing guests already, but he talks about bringing in around June, hopefully, Helson Gracie to this podcast.
That would be that'd be big.
That'd be kind of big.
That'd be kind of huge.
Little big, But yeah, with jiu-jitsu, even back then, it wasn't even that long ago, 10 plus years ago.
Right.
Yeah.
Seriously, like either you were into it or you weren't. More people, what's the joke right now running? People ask, the uninitiated ask, oh, do you do that MMA? Do you do, or no, do you do UFC?
Yeah.
And it's like, there were so many more people asking that question back then than there are now.
Yeah.
And back then it was so much more pure. I mean, like you go into a jiu-jitsu place and for the most part, you're getting straight up jiu-jitsu. There's none, and now we're starting to see, unfortunately, the mall karate, the McDojo of jiu-jitsu starting to happen now.
Yeah.
And that's hard, right? Because anytime something gets popularized like that, and something gains popularity in any sense, it starts to become a little bit more commercialized. It gets watered down. And
Absolutely.
Things like that. So, I mean, it's kind of the natural progression of things, but it's always good to have the people that are the purists of whatever that art is and kind of keeps it down to the fundamentals of it and sticks to the raw concepts that really put it on the map, right? That's what you really want to be a part of. And I mean, the sport jiu-jitsu, again, I appreciate it. I love watching sport jiu-jitsu. I love watching Kyotera, Jeff Glover, even like Eddie Bravo and those guys. I love watching
Gary Tonin.
Gary Tonin, DJ. Well, DJ's a little bit more old school because he's a wrestler base, right? And I did want to ask you this. Since you came out of that academy when Coach Rock had it at the Goals, did you know people like Sam, Joe Cunningham?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Dmitry Bacharnikov.
I didn't know. Dmitry. Yeah, it's been so long since I've actually heard his last name. No, so Dmitry, like we started around the same time.
Yeah.
Yeah, he was like he probably doesn't know this, but he was like I considered him my nemesis for a while.
Really?
I was like I'm not gonna let Dmitry tap me. That's like my thing.
Amazing. Oh my god.
Yeah, so I still would catch him at open mats like even recently as like last year.
What rank is he now?
He's a purple right now.
He's a purple right now?
Yeah, but
Okay.
he's kind of doing so sort of the progression like that some people fall into is like they love the sport, but there's also so much else going on in your life, and it's hard to commit the time to be on the mat.
100%.
To 4
Especially-
or 5 days a week,
especially
right?
in this area. And I think with jiu-jitsu, you have a whole lot less opportunity to make money doing jiu-jitsu, unless you're, teaching and training and stuff. So you got,
Yeah.
I feel like in this area, you got a lot more people that have to fit jiu-jitsu around a work schedule and family.
Right.
Absolutely.
Yeah, so I hung out with Dimitri a lot. I haven't seen him as much lately. I think he took me out on this boat. It was either last summer or the summer before. But that he's a guy who's got just so many interests all over the place.
Yeah, he does.
But yes, I love Dimitri. He's a good guy.
It was funny because way back in the day, I remember starting rolling with Dimitri, and it was hard for him to catch me at the time. But I'm like, man, I think about that now, and I'm like, man, Dimitri probably like worked me in like 30
Paul, are you
seconds,
good?
tap.
You're good at jiu-jitsu?
I did it a long time ago, and I actually did it. Little known fact about my personal history is that where I started doing martial arts, the Aikido martial arts out in Alexandria, they were one of the first people to actually go out and train with the Gracies and then bring it back here.
I remember Aikido, man. What was the head instructor's name again?
Mike Hess.
That's right, Mike Hess.
Yeah.
He's like OG.
OG.
Yeah.
Very OG. And that's where I got my start in Brazilian Jiu Jitsu from like a House and Gracie, like a distilled version of like House and Gracie Jiu Jitsu. Actually, I'm sorry, it was Hickson. He trained with Hickson.
Yeah, because
in
I think
California.
Fightworks had the dominant
House
and Gracie Jiu-Jitsu around here. Hey, let me say what's up to Patrick D. Gull. Let me say what's up to Cameron Howard. Let me say what's up to Sean.
Cameron is on? Cool.
Mother loving Sean Spath. Am I saying that?
Sean
No,
Spath.
Yeah, that's right. Because I actually watched a bunch of Sean's fights. Like after I think episode 3,
Yeah.
I was watching a lot of Sean's fights, and even the announcers would be like, Sean Spath. Wait, no, it's Spath.
Yeah.
they were effing it up too. Got to train more than just BJJ, wrestling, Thai, etc. So ranking goes up slower, Sean says.
Wow, okay.
All right. So you came to this area.
Right.
You were training there. Mm-hmm. Now tell me about your progression from then to now you're owning your own school. Like how did that happen?
So yeah, I mean, basically, you start doing it. And I've always worked well with like kids and stuff. So like I've coached youth football. I volunteered and coached CYA wrestling for a while. So I've always been sort of like around like youth sports and stuff. And so I got the opportunity, was volunteering at Fairfax Jiu Jitsu as the kids instructor there for like a few years.
Okay.
And then basically at some point like I identified that there's kids need more than just kind of like the kids need bigger programs, because a lot of the places the kids program, they have their adult programs and that's their focus. They want to get guys ready for tournaments and they want to do that.
Right.
And then they're like, okay, we have some time slots where we can make it available for kids.
Yeah.
Right. But then it's tough. And the challenges that I ran into teaching the kids program before I opened up my own academy is that you end up with kids from the ages of 6 years old to 12 years old, right? And some of those 12-year-olds have been training for 2 years, and some of those 6-year-olds have been training for 2 weeks.
Yeah.
So it's like, okay, we're in an hour class, and and I'm not sure who's going to show up for each of these classes. And then the kids come in. It's like, all right, well, how do I develop a curriculum that challenges an experienced 12-year-old, but also captivates a brand new 6-year-old?
Yeah.
And it becomes very difficult.
That's hard, man.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And let me stop you there, man. I gotta give you a huge thank you, because I've been going, like, obviously my home will always be with Disciple and that crew. But it's just not like, what do they say? Back when I was a trainer, not Muay Thai, but actual, like a personal trainer. I did that for many years. And one thing I told people, especially when they were trying me out, basically, I say, how far away do you live? How close is this to either work or home? And, and if it was far, I'd say, you're not going to last. I'm telling you right now, because no matter how motivated you are, if it's not convenient to your everyday life, this isn't going to be something that you can integrate into your life. It's got to be close to work or close to home. It's got to be one of those two. Not only was I having a hard time finding a school in Chantilly, Fairfax area, but I was also having a hard time finding a school where I could bring my daughter and they would, she's 5, where she'd be able to train, because being young, I started martial arts when I was 2, not jujitsu.
Right.
I said with my kids, they're going to start early too. And when I figured out how amazing jujitsu was, I said, that's the martial art they're going to start with is jujitsu. And when you opened up the school so close to me, I was like, it's hitting all the points. The only thing I haven't done is walk in there yet. And we're planning on coming in and trying classes out and everything.
That's awesome.
But I am so excited to have a place that me, my wife, and my kid can all train.
Yeah, that's pretty awesome.
And look, anybody listening to this right now, I know most of the people listening to this right now are probably 100% in anyway. Like, I don't have to talk them into learning jiu-jitsu, but if you have a kid, they must learn jiu-jitsu. If you have a daughter, she must learn jiu-jitsu. It's like the number one martial art. I mean, you can't start with, I think, a more technically hard martial art. Let them start when they're young, so it's not such a learning curve when they get older if they want to get into that. But anyway, that's my soapbox right now. I'm really excited to try you guys out.
No, that's awesome. Yeah, that's another thing, right? Like there's most places the cutoff is 6. Like 6 is the age that the minimum age before you can even start. So, admittedly, I don't have a ton of experience with the 4 and 5-year-olds yet. So I'm kind of learning, like, where is their attention span and what can they do? What can't they do? What's pushing them too far? So we started with some 45-minute classes. And it's pretty much, I feel like it's mostly bribing them to get to the games portion.
Yeah.
It's like, we just do a few more break falls. Then we could play a game later. And then it's like, okay, they're like, all right, we'll do a couple break falls for dodgeball.
They're goal oriented.
Yeah. So, but it's been a lot of fun. And I agree with you. Like, so Brazilian Jiu Jitsu, when I started with Abmar, so I recently switched teams to Abmar, and I went down there, but I got a phone call from one of my ex-students' moms, and so she's talking to me about her son, and just, and it doesn't take I think one thing that people look at is it's like, okay, so it's good to know for self-defense, but I really don't want my kids to be involved in an altercation. But like what Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu gives to a lot of kids that are like, maybe they're smaller than their classmates or whatever, it gives them the confidence to make them not a target of bullying in a lot of cases, right?
Yes.
Like that they, because in my experience of growing up, like, if you just didn't put up with bullying, it didn't happen to you.
Right.
And it's not that easy. I'm not saying like, oh, well, you just ignore the bullies and they go away. But when you have a confidence, like people pick up on that, and there's like an aura about you. And so, there's one kid, he's 5 years old, and this kid in the neighborhood that was messing with him, and he didn't get into a fight with him, but he stood up to him.
Yeah.
And the kid stopped messing with him.
There you go.
And it's like, it's and his mom said that that was in large part from him attending my classes, and I was like, okay, so
where else are they really learning it though? Because like with my other podcast, Righteous Anger podcast, it's kind of just anger. It's not anger. It is anger at the world today and how things are going and what's effed up about the world right now. And one of the things that we talk about a lot is how are kids being raised nowadays, especially in the society at a whole. They're raised to become victims for the most part. There's like this whole, as opposed to looking at it, this is the issue. As opposed to looking at it as equip the kids to be able to defend against bullying, they're going, hey, bullies, stop bullying. And it's like, speaking as an anthropologist, good luck to you. You're never going to get rid of bullying. You're never going to get rid of war. You're never going to get rid of racism. These are just inherent problems in society, human society. But what can you do? Look on the other side. What can you do to defend against such things?
Right. And I agree with you, right? Like and I'm not saying that we just give bullies a free pass and we just, allow people to do whatever.
Right.
But, there's like the idea of policing the bullies, and then there's the idea of equipping yourself to deal with the bullies. And I think that, proactively, you can prepare yourself.
Yes.
you can't control what somebody else is going to do.
No, you
now, that
can't.
being said, like, I want bullies to stop. I don't want there to be bullying. And we can tackle that problem at the same time. But in the meantime, let's prepare ourselves because,
Yes.
like you said, it's gonna happen. We have stories like there's just talking to coworkers. I'm an electrical engineer in my day job, and then this is what I do after I get out of work.
We had another fighter on the show that was also an electrical engineer. Yeah, big ups to Rick Humphreys.
Yes,
All
sir.
So,
Yeah. So, but talking to to people at work because even though, my day job is electrical engineering, like jiu-jitsu comes up, and it's people are talking about their kids and the experiences that they have, and it's like, yeah, and the flip side of it is that we're also like, kind of hamstringing our teachers and stuff, and what like
They can't
when
do
I was
it.
when I was a kid, man, like.
Dude, come on.
Yeah.
I didn't even do anything. I got pulled out of line and like spanked because there was a chance that I might have done it, and I didn't do it. And I didn't do it again, even though I didn't do it the first time. But the point is, like, and I'm not saying I'm not saying let's go back to that because I don't know how comfortable it'd be with a teacher putting their hands.
Wait a minute. I didn't think I would need this, but
Are we bringing out the bell?
I just realized that Mr. Merryman here. Am I saying that right, Merryman?
Yep.
Okay. Mr. Merryman here has to be very politically careful because he trains kids who only come if their parents bring them. So how's it supposed to go? I forget. The comments and opinions of Leo have nothing to do with Coach Tad Merryman. Anything that Leo says has nothing to do with Coach Merryman or Alpha JJ. Please disregard.
Good disclaimer.
There you go. All right. Sorry, Tad.
So I'm not disagreeing with you. Right?
I know
But
you're
it's
not,
like,
but you're being very political, which I'm not mad at you.
I have to be careful.
You have to
right?
be careful. I get
Yes.
it. I get it.
Exactly.
And just so you know, I grew up in going to school in the Philippines, and I went to a private school in the Philippines.
Okay.
And if they would do surprise, they were either surprise weekly or
Ass
monthly.
whoopings?
Yeah, pretty much. It was either weekly, monthly, or surprise checks on how long your nails were, how long, whether your haircut was properly, you had a proper haircut for school, and the teachers used to walk around with a yardstick.
Oh, jeez.
And they would make you put your hands on the desk. And if your nails were too long, it was like, whap! And I was like, I remember I had them and I was praying. I was like, oh, please don't let them be too long. Bam! And I was like,
Dude, now that's like very Catholic school. Was it a Catholic school?
It was.
Yeah, see, that's the nuns. That's their like secret
That's
weapon.
their bread and butter.
They-
The ruler.
That's the first thing they learn in nun school is
Yeah.
how to wrap children's hands with that damn ruler.
No, it wasn't a ruler. It was a yardstick.
Excuse me.
She held that thing like a samurai and like twirled it around. What?
I hope Abmar's not listening because if he is, he's going to start implementing that rule for the fingernails at our gym. He's already threatened to close. Like he's like, this is the worst thing. He's
Yeah.
like this.
At that age,
The fingernails.
do you guys have to worry about? With kids and stuff, do you have to worry about things like? I know when I used to teach Muay Thai, I'm constantly looking at dudes' fingernails and toenails.
Yeah.
And it wasn't as big of a deal as it is in jiu-jitsu, but I'm looking at their uniform, I'm smelling them like you smell like garbage, dude. Like, do you have to do that with the kids or as much or?
Not really. I mean, so occasionally there'll be something where you're, it's like, okay, this kid, likes to go in his nose and looking for stuff. And so you have to have these conversations. I had a kid who's like, it's like we've talked to him. And he's like, look, this is my personality. This is what this is my personality.
He said, "This is what I do, man."
He's like, don't try to change me, man. This is my personality. And it's like at some point I'm just like, that's funny. Like that's good.
That's hilarious.
Yeah.
You got to change,
Yes,
kid.
but it's like, yeah.
Picking his nose was his personality.
He's like,
dude, this is me, man.
Yeah.
This is who I am.
He's just sitting there digging around and just like.
But
wiping
you're
on his
right.
gi.
And so like fingernails, like sometimes the kids' fingernails get, they're too long. You have to send out the email, remind the parents like, hey, because the last thing I don't like to single kids out and like say, hey,
Sure.
like, just make sure everybody checks it out and and keeps the finger. But it's also not like, while it is a big deal and they should do it, kids aren't typically going as hard as the adults
Very
do,
true.
right?
Yes.
So, they're not getting clawed in the face while people are going for a collar grip, because they're more, it's almost like they're playing.
Yeah.
Now there are the ones that get more competitive, but you typically don't have any problems with those because they are so serious about it.
Yes.
That they're taking care of everything. You know?
Now, now with the kid, I've got actually a lot of questions, and it's probably very selfish because I have a 5-year-old that I'm planning on bringing to you. But this is what you do, so I'll ask the question anyway. What's the progression besides reaching the next belt? Are there any other things like do the kids enter in tournaments? Do you have that in the horizon? Are you looking at that or?
Yeah. So, we try to be, palatable for everybody, right? So, and now, so since I'm an affiliate of Abmar Barbosa, and then we also have another school, there's another affiliate school out in Purcellville, Justin Lowe's Academy out there. You might remember Justin Lowe from back in those Gold's Gym days.
Yeah.
He was around there at the same time with Dimitri and all those guys.
Yeah, the name definitely sounds familiar.
And he's a black belt out in Purcellville, but he's got a great tournament squad. And so between me, Marisha, and Justin Lowe, we have tournament support. So, the difficult thing is, the tournaments are going to be on Saturdays.
Yeah.
And so it's like you have to cancel class for the kids that want to just do class to support the kids. But now we can kind of hand off some of those responsibilities to sort of our sibling schools and say, and hopefully there's enough exposure that they relate to those coaches as well, and have somebody there to support them. But absolutely. So tournament support is a big deal. I think that if a kid wants to compete, it's competitions make you accountable for just the way you train. Like if you can get by just, kind of showing up and saying I'm not going to go hard against this person, or, I have 2 rounds against one guy that are going to be tough, but I can kind of skate through class. When you start to go to tournaments, it really makes you completely accountable for the way that you're approaching it. And so that was one thing that I really liked when I was coaching wrestling is like the season starts and there's 3 weeks before the first tournament, and then it's tournaments every single week.
And that's non-negotiable in wrestling. I mean, wrestling, I've never heard of a wrestling program that didn't say, and you're competing.
Yeah. Right. And I'm not, all the kids aren't ready for competition right out of the gate, particularly you get kids in there that are a little bit more timid and, they're growing that confidence that they need. But then there's the kids that they have so much energy, so much aggression. It's like, man, get these kids on the mat in a tournament. Yeah. And, they'll be lights out.
Unleash them on somebody.
Yeah, but it's like you'll see that it's way easier to have a super intense wrestling practice than it is to have a super intense.
Oh, jeez.
Oh, no. Fire.
That's not good.
All right, so just for everybody that's going to watch this on YouTube.
Pay no attention. Pay no attention to me.
Leo's basically starting a fire in his own home, and we're going to be in great peril here in a few moments.
Just so you guys know, this ain't the first time.
It's not?
Righteous Anger Podcast. Eric, my co-host of that show, righteousangerpodcast.com. That's his nickname is Firestarter because he would constantly be doing that. All right, what were we talking about?
Kids, tournaments, things like that.
So let me ask you this, Tad. It's not just kids at your school though, right? Like me and my wife can come and train too.
Absolutely.
So what are the age groups, and then what days can we do each thing?
Okay, so there's kids pretty much every day except for Friday. So we do a 4 and 5 year old class on Mondays and Wednesdays from 4:45 to 5:30. Then after that class, we have sort of a fundamentals kids class, ages 6 to 12. Okay. So we do that class on Monday, Wednesday, and Thursday. And so, from 5:30 to 6:30. And then we have an advanced jiu-jitsu class for kids also age 6 to 12. We do that class on Tuesdays from 5:30 to 6:30, and then on Thursdays from 6:30 to 7:30. And so the kids that, I say the advanced kids, those kids are welcome to participate in the fundamentals class because I think it's also important for, the kids. And I don't want to burn them out. So don't come to all the classes because it's honestly too many classes to go to all of them. Yeah. But for the more advanced kids, they can come back, brush up on their fundamentals, and then help elevate some of the other less experienced students, up to their level. Then we're doing a teen class, and we do that on Mondays and Wednesdays from, 6:30 to 7:30.
So those are the kids that compete? Is that what you mean by
the
team?
No, teen. Sorry.
Teen. Okay.
TEEN. And so any of the kids can compete. So, and we're still brand new, so we haven't really sort of formed a competition team.
Right.
We have a few students that, have definitely done well in competitions before that are with me.
Okay.
And so we're definitely going to support those kids when they go.
Hey, Tad, I'm not pressuring you to do that.
Oh, yeah.
I'm just.
No.
Okay. Leo, quit it with the dumb.
I'm not gonna make any promises that I haven't already thought about, and sort of things that we're gonna do. But yeah, we're definitely doing tournament support. Okay. And then after that, we're doing classes for adults all the weeknights. So we have 7:30 to 9 p.m. on Mondays. You may remember this person. Do you know Garrett Beck, Vaji?
No.
Okay, so Vaji's teaching the class on Mondays for adults. Okay. And then on Tuesdays, we're doing, it's not an open mat. So I like open mats. I think they're great to get people into the gym. Yeah. But on Tuesdays, what we're doing is a drill class for an hour and then some type of organized sparring for an hour.
Okay.
Cool.
And so while those aren't, they're not open mats, they're more structured, but the format is you come in, you bring your own sweep, you bring your own pass, and you bring your own submission, and then you drill it for the entire hour. You do 10 reps, your partner does 10 reps, and then after you're finished and you've gone through, each of them, then you start over. Same technique, just because one thing that, that I feel is lacking in my training that I need to do more of is drilling.
Sure.
So we have a drill class, and then following that, we have, like a marathon rolls class or a sweep pass submit class, something that's not just like grab a partner, talk about the fights over the weekend for 10 minutes, and then roll around for the last 30 seconds of the round. So we're still going to kind of stay on you, but it's not going to be that focused. Here's the technical instruction for tonight. You're not going to necessarily learn a new technique then. So we do that on Tuesdays, and we do that on Fridays. And then on Wednesdays and Thursdays, we have another adult hour-and-a-half class from 7:30 to 9 on each of those days. And then we have open mats on the weekend. And, we even have there's a group of friends that, we earlier this morning, we met up at 10 a.m. We rolled for a couple hours, then we went over to Anita's and got some breakfast. So we're trying to it's not necessarily a scheduled event right now, but just, kind of a way to just stay in touch. Because like you said, there are guys that are at different academies all over the place. Yeah. And it'd be great just to have a spot where, you can meet up and hang out.
Absolutely.
And there's no pressure. Yeah. And, the other program, and I haven't, I'm skeptical to, announce, pricing or whatever for this. But, we're going to do a program for, guys that have entered into a new stage of their life, and paying $180 a month for jiu-jitsu is just kind of not in their budget because it doesn't make it's not physically responsible if you can only be at one class every 2 weeks.
Sure.
So we're going to try to do a program where you don't attend the classes led by an instructor, but you can go to the drill classes and the spar classes and still get guidance from more experienced people on the mat and still get technical stuff, but at a greatly discounted rate.
That's an
so for
awesome
the guys
idea.
That is a great idea.
So for the guys that just they want to be on the mat, but at the same time but maybe $50-$60 a month is something that they could swallow and still go out there and still stay active in the sport.
Yeah.
And you're saying it's not so much. I'm making sure I get this right.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's not so much in instruction as it is you're coming in and you're sharpening, and then maybe you're with some other people that help sharpen you.
Right. So if I come in and I'm like, I'm working on this leg lasso sweep, and I want to do that, and then I'm also working on this Kimura from this weird position, and then I'm doing this X pass. So I come in, I do my X pass 10 times, my opponent does theirs, and I just work through that for the drill class. And then sort of when that hour's up, then we say, okay, everybody, with your partners now, we're going to do this position. So we're going to do half guard today. So partner up, and you're still being coached. Because I find that's what lacks at a lot of open mats is there's no sense of urgency.
Yeah.
And it's tough. So there are the guys, you kind of get out of an open mat what you want to get out of it, but some people need to be pushed a little bit more.
Sure.
And I've always been one of those people that could use a little bit more pushing, right? When I'm training. It's great to have a coach in my ear that's like, all right, Tad, it's too much talking.
Yeah.
Let's focus on the rolling. And so, something like that. So it's going to be, sort of guided sparring and drilling. But since you don't need an expert level, brown belt, black belt to teach a class like that. You just need somebody who's good at pacing.
Right.
And so for that, like, I don't think that for a class where a person comes in just and is basically just spars for an hour, someone should have to pay the full price of the instructor, the instructor and stuff like that. And I also, so that being said, I really want, it's important to continue your learning with instructors and things like that.
Yes.
But for the people who can't, stay active, And this isn't, a program that I want to make available to brand new white belts. This is something that I want to make available, to guys that, that they're purple belts that don't train very often anymore.
Yeah.
And, maybe this is a way for them to just sort of keep themselves active in the sport.
What do you think, Paul? You think that's I'm not like in the world as much as you are. Do you feel like that's something that could take off?
I mean, I think it definitely is, because I know, like what a lot of Tad is saying makes perfect sense. Like sometimes for people, it's just not fiscally feasible to be able to cough up, the whatever your dues are for whatever academy you're going to,
but
especially if you can't make all the classes. But if you can go, it's almost like you're doing like an a la carte service where you can go to like this class it's somewhat distilled down to just drilling and maybe an hour of like.
But I'm saying, do you know guys that would? Do you feel like there's guys that would want that?
100%. Yes.
You think so?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely. Because I know a lot of guys that are just specifically have that mindset where they're like, well, I used to train, but my work schedule doesn't work out that way, and I can only come once a week or once every 2 weeks or whatever. And, you're looking for this time slot where you can do it, and you still want, you can improve. So you want somebody to be able to look and evaluate your technique, but you also want to have the freedom to be able to kind of roll at some point and be able to still stay active in the sport. I think that's.
I think it'd be cool to also have.
It's like a semi-structured open mat. It's almost like a
right. And
semi-structured
the
mat.
other thing is like since I'm saying this would only be really available to like blue belts and up, but having more guys like that on your mat is better for the product. Like if you get experience out there, and also like these guys typically don't have the same experience growing up in jiu-jitsu, right? Like, some schools are very top pressure, knee cut pass, side control, and grind it out. And then other schools are very fluid, and they're doing inverted guard, and they're doing a bunch of different stuff.
Yeah.
And so the guys, sort of, if they've grown out and they've come from programs like this, they come to like a class like this, a drilling class, and then, they end up going with someone who's less experienced, and they show them something that they're like, wow, like, the leverage you created in that position, like, kind of blew my mind. And now they're thinking more, right? Like, I think that jiu-jitsu should be a sport where we collaborate more.
Yeah.
And, like, where we get out and we, experience and shit. Now, I get it. If you're on, like, a competition team and you have a rival, like, okay, don't mix before the DC Open.
Yeah.
That doesn't make sense. But, for I think 90% of the people that participate in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, it's really about like they're fascinated with the sport of Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, and collaborating in the sport is what elevates the sport and makes the sport better. Yeah. And
but now that way of thinking wasn't always the way, because like Coach Rick McCoy was talking about, if you wanted to cross train, people would be like, okay, you can cross train, but don't show them this, or don't do this particular technique, or don't show them that we have these tools, et cetera, et cetera. And now it's like it is becoming a little bit more collaborative, where you do have people that cross over from academy to academy, and they start kind of trying out different flavors of what other people have to offer, because you have guys that are like the old school practitioners, where it really is just about knee cut pass, side control, position, submission, and then you have the guys that are doing like the inverted guard, rubber guard, any De La Hiva, and just trying to
mixing it up and just doing kind of different types of things. And like for me, if if you just focus on like sort of the techniques that like if your school has like this is their bread and butter, right? This bread and butter may not be suited for your body type. Like to be honest, like that's the cool thing about jiu-jitsu. There's my game, you know. I'm like 170 pounds, you know, 5 foot almost 8, and you know the truth of the matter is you know I don't do a lot of triangles. You know, that's not my game. It's just, but at the same time, like there are guys that, you know, my spider guard isn't, you know, as advanced as, you know, some guy with longer legs that can really extend and create the balance and the pressure. But it's a disservice if I have a student that has that body type. I want them to reach their max potential.
Absolutely.
I want them to find like the game that fits their body the best, not just be the best they can be at my body type.
Yeah.
Right. So,
it's
kind
not about
of like
creating a rubber stamp of yourself and putting it on everybody. It's about giving them the tools to be able to elevate themselves to wherever they can take it to.
Absolutely.
That's good news, man. Because when I was training jiu-jitsu at Fightworks, no amount of prayer could help me maintain a guard. None. My legs I've got thick, short legs. So probably about 80% of the people that I'd roll with, I couldn't maintain a tight guard, you know?
Yeah.
So I'm always open guard, and, you know, I didn't get far. I was still a white belt. So I didn't get far, but learning those tricks and realizing that, you know, that I going forward, I'm just letting you know, Dad.
Yeah.
When you guys are training me,
right.
guard is not going to be my thing, man.
Yeah.
Close guards,
that was my biggest, like, you know, that was my biggest learning curve, right? When I came in, it was about winning. And you approach jiu-jitsu, like going back to sort of my early days. It's like you come in and you're like, I want to win these spars.
Yeah.
Like I went 5-0 today in sparring. Like, what is that actually worth?
Yeah.
Right. Like when you go home, it's like worth everything, right? Like you're talking about it with your friends. You're like, oh yeah, dude, I finally caught so-and-so in this move.
I caught a brown belt and choked him.
Yeah. And it's like, you find out that the brown belt was like, he's trying to do some highly specialized thing. And he thought that you were bad enough that you were the guy that he'd hit it on the first time. And so you ended up like scoring the points that way. But you're such a novice that you didn't even realize that.
That's awesome.
But yeah, so it's like it was all about winning. So I was in the same boat as a wrestler. Being on your back is weird. It's bad. You know, like my guard was basically if a person passed my side control, I'd roll over and I'd play turtle guard, right? Like which isn't a guard, but I would be there and I would hang out and I'd look for my Peterson rolls and my stuff like that. But at the same time, like I'm doing myself a huge disservice by not spending this time on the mat, you know, finding ways to improve my guard, you know, because I might lose that spar if I practice my guard with this guy. And so now it's like really, and, you know, I encourage like, it's funny because if I roll with like a newer white belt and he's like, man, I feel so bad rolling with you because like you're teaching me all this stuff, but like, what do you actually get out of this? And I'm like, here's the thing, man. I was like, it's the upper belt's job to get something out of it.
Yeah.
You know, like it's my job to find the weaknesses in my game that I can start to try to work and find this happy medium place for us to do this. You know, if I do my bread and butter and it's like, okay, so I hit my favorite sweep, go to my favorite submission attack, and then I do that 6 times, like, yeah, you're right. I didn't learn anything, and all that person did was be discouraged in training jiu-jitsu.
Yeah.
But if I'm like, my spider guard does need some work. Let's focus on I'm only going to try to hit spider sweeps today.
Right.
Or if something breaks down, I'm going to try to recover back to that guard. Like there's opportunities for me to learn with just about anybody.
Absolutely.
And it's the goal of I think the upper belt to identify those spots. I didn't realize it when I was, you know, coming up either, but you know, that's kind of the way the game I think, you know, should work and does work now that I'm more mature to see it.
Yeah.
So training with Abmar Barbosa, how is that? I mean, like what have you learned from him?
Wow. So going to his
Loaded
academy.
question. Good job, Leo.
Yeah. So, I mean, he is so active in the sport currently that, you know, there's, you know, going back to, I'll make an example of my kids' class, right? Like if you end up recycling a lot of this stuff, you end up doing like Kimura's and stuff all the time. And so I kind of found that's how, you know, I was like, oh, I've kind of already seen all of jiu-jitsu. and I'm just going to keep brushing up on it. But when I started training with Abmar, and I've known him going back to the Gold's Gym.
Okay.
So I've known him for a really long time, and we've always been friendly with each other. And he had his grand opening, and I ended up down there. But I'll tell you what, the guys down there, the intensity that they train with is on a different level. Like
Really?
they went out to Pans and they had several guys win gold in like the adult division. Marisha went out and I think it's her first tournament in a black belt as an adult female, and she goes out there and just mows through everybody, and it's like she's a beast. Abmar's a beast. Everybody's very good. So it's not just the intensity. It's like there's guys out there that are 125, 135 pounds that are blue and purple belts that it's near impossible to pass their guard for me. And I'm like, this is some kind of sorcery, right? Like these guys, but then you train and you get the lessons. And, I'd say in the last 2 months, I've learned just position, like variations of a half guard. Half guard's my game. That's where I play. This is how I get most of my sweeps. And Abmar says, well, what if you put this leg up this way and then you figure 4? Now you have everybody trapped, and it's simple as sort of a technical scoot to get the sweep. And I'm like, wow. And this is something that I can do on really top level guys. Once I get my legs hooked, there it is, or worm guard sweeps or whatever. But it's sort of just been a very eye opening, just on the level of jiu-jitsu that's out there that I can still learn. I've been doing this for 11 years, and it's I can still learn new positions and add those into my game, and it's incredible. And just as far as a personality, I like to think that I'm one of Abmar's favorite students, the way we interact.
Nice.
But it's but then I watch him interact with everybody, and he's just got that kind of charismatic personality where, he's a coach that you want to give your best for. And you want him to be proud of you. Yeah. And but at the same time, he's a guy that's really cool to hang out with, and he's fun, he laughs, but just the level of intensity and just the sharpness of technique. And he's going to Brazil, weeks, for weeks at a time to pick up new things to bring back to show us. So he's still very active in the community of jiu-jitsu.
That's crazy.
And still learning. He's still learning stuff too.
That's nuts to me. When I was a kid, I watched and for those of you guys watching that goes, here goes Leo again. Shut up. I have a point. Don't worry. But I used to watch Temple of Doom, Indiana Jones and Temple of Doom,
right,
over and over and over again. He was my hero growing up.
It's a good film.
Love it.
It's a good film.
Most people say it's not their favorite, but I say F those people.
Is that the one where he does the bag of sand swap?
Yes.
Okay,
Yeah.
that's my favorite of all of them.
No. That's you're thinking the first one. That's
Raiders of the Lost Ark.
That's most people's favorite. Mine's Temple of Doom. That's the one. That's a weird one where he's not dealing with Nazis, but he ends up putting me on a trajectory because we all have our kid heroes.
Right.
I actually go to school you think you would stop, right? But especially when you find out that being an archaeologist actually is 90% of your time spent in a library studying. It's really not sexy like Indiana Jones made it look. But I ended up going to school for anthropology, archaeology, and I stuck with it. And my number one fear growing up and going through this was everything's going to be discovered by the time I'm out there doing my thing and doing my archaeology. And it wasn't until, I was actually going to school, I realized, wow, there's so many more questions that need to be answered using anthropology and archaeology. I feel like it's the same thing in jiu-jitsu. I look at jiu-jitsu players and I go, how is there anything new to learn? How is there anything new to learn?
Right. How is it that a body can be manipulated in a different shape than it already has been?
I feel like there's no way we can learn any new tricks. It's just you go out there and you learn the tricks that are there, but that's not true, is it? There are still new tricks and new variations to these techniques.
Absolutely.
Well, the way that I think about it, for me personally, because I'm more geared towards the stand-up, but as I'm a Muay Thai coach, it's always, in the beginning, you're always teaching everybody mechanics. As an advanced person, you start to teach concepts. But in the higher levels of it, you have to come back to mechanics to be able to tune the concepts. So it's like it's cyclical, and it's a never-ending circle, because you're always going to have something that you can tune. There's always going to be some new angle that you can cut there, and I was talking about this with one of the I think it was Coach Tony. I was saying that my vocabulary in Muay Thai applies to the vocabulary in BJJ and vice versa, because you're always going to need to tune angles. You're always going to need to tune your distance measurement. You're always going to need to tune your transitions. So there's always something within all of those different components of whatever sport you're in, and I personally believe that goes with anything in life. No matter what you're learning, no matter what you're passionate about, it's always going to come back. It's always going to come down to what are the mechanics of what you're trying to learn. Once you have a good handle on that, you start looking at what are the concepts behind it.
And can you explain concept to me?
Okay, so to me, when I say concept, I'm going to bring it to my language, to my wheelhouse. It's Muay Thai. So, concept of kicking, the concept of a round kick, right? Everybody feels like, oh, the Thai round kick is the strongest round kick there is. Probably, but there's how many ways can you throw it? Several, because it's situational. And how many situations are you going to come up with? It's infinite. So there are times when I'll work with, for my own personal training, I'll work on throwing the more cut, upward angle Thai kick the way that John Scott and John Douglas teach it.
Up into the ribs.
Up into the ribs.
The lower ribs.
Yeah, up into the lower ribs. And then there are times when I'll work the one that the type of round kick that comes up and outside and cuts across to attack the arms. And then you start to look at it from, okay, well, how can I now? I understand how to throw the cut kick that goes towards the ribs. I understand how to throw a big kick to attack the arms. How do I get it so that they can't see which one's coming? And then change that into a leg kick.
And that's just one facet of
absolutely
trickery, right? Like so the facet of how can I trick my opponent not to block this properly?
Exactly.
But then there's other facets too, like how can I do this without losing steam?
Yeah.
And keep him, or how can I do this and not, or whatever, right?
Your efficiency. And it's the same thing that I've seen with a lot of like high level elite BJJ players, is that they're no longer looking for the next big thing. They're looking how to tune what they know and to make it as universally applicable as possible. Like that's, to me, that's when you're at the height of your game, you're looking at tuning all the little things. And sure, you can learn and add new things to your game. That's great. But a lot of them, they have that mindset of it's just constant self-improvement. And that's what it'll break down to, is that you're always just going to be, you're never going to beat your best opponent. And it really, you have to think of it as a progression of how am I going to become better as a person doing this, no matter what, and like I keep going back to that concept, no matter what you try to apply that mentality to, how can I become a better version of me by doing this? If you use that mentality, you'll never stop learning. You will never run out of things to discover. You will never run out of things to learn. You'll never run out of, people that you can interact with to get a different perspective on it, because your own perspective won't always be enough. You will need good coaches. You will need good contacts in your network to be able to say, I need to put a different spin on this. Can you show me something that I'm not thinking of?
Interesting. Cool.
But that's just my take as a coach. Now, Tad, are you in the same boat with that?
Yeah, no, I agree. I mean, there's things that break down, and it's like I think of concepts as like there's like lessons that you have to learn in jiu-jitsu. So, I'll make a really broad example, but I'll talk about like the concept of like just like distance or space. Mm-hmm. So in jiu-jitsu, like you can almost boil jiu-jitsu down to like two simple modes, right? Like you're either trying to make space, you're trying to create space,
right,
or you're trying to take away space,
right?
Like there's two very fundamental things, and just recognizing when you're where, right? Like usually when you're in the dominant position, you're trying to vacuum out all the space. You're trying to be close. You're trying
that vacuum out all the space.
You're just trying to like
friction's your friend.
Yeah, it just hips to hips, covering, taking just all the space away. Mm-hmm. But when you're in the negative position, when you need to, the first step in any recovery, create space. Yeah, shrimp, create space, make space, and then as soon as the space is there, then it's open game again,
Yeah.
and it's who's going to take that space and use it most effectively. So just concepts and stuff like that. Like I definitely agree with you.
Yeah.
Tony Waldecker, episode 5 was talking about how Helson's game is not. He was talking about the difference between. Well, we were talking about the difference between like sport jiu-jitsu and kind of what's popular right now versus street jiu-jitsu that is works
Self-defense
oriented. And he was saying Helson's techniques are so suffocating. His thing is slowly, inch by inch, but you start losing options as you roll at them until you have no more options, and then you're basically submitting.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I did a private with Yamaso a few years ago, and he talks about this concept that's kind of stuck with me. He talks about, he's like, I always move on the odds. Like the odd turns are my turns, the even turns are your turn.
Right.
So the way he looks at jiu-jitsu, and he's a very sport-oriented guy, but it still applies. He says my move is the first move, and then you're going to react to it in some way, shape, or form. That's the second move. And the way he trains in sequences. So he's like, all right, this is my first move. These are the 4 things that you're feasibly going to do in your second move. And then I'm already going to have the third move answer for any of those moves that you do.
Yeah, that's the chess.
And then,
piece
it's so incredible. And we ended up, I spent like an hour and a half with him, and we just kind of explored this butterfly sweep area. And he's like, yeah, if you put your hand there, I do this. If you put your foot there, I do this. Okay, now if you put your foot there and I do this, and you do that, I do this. Or if you do the other thing, and it's just like, the whole tree is already mapped out.
Yeah.
There's a game that I learned when I was like in the 6th or 7th grade. Like the teacher, basically it's this number game, and the way that the number game is played is, you play it with one other person, and the goal is to get to 20, right? So whoever says the number 20 is the winner, and each move you can either say one number or 2 numbers. So I can say 1, and then you could say 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, etc. But, as a 7th grader, I wasn't thinking about it at the time, so I played the game, and of course I lost. But the game isn't just to get to 20, it's to get to 17. Because whoever gets to 17 is going to get to 20. Whoever gets to 14 can get to 17. The person that gets to 11, if that makes sense. I don't know if
never played that game, but that sounds amazing.
Let's play that game
No, we're
right
not gonna
now.
play that game
No,
right
I want
now.
you guys, you two, right now. Seriously.
Oh, Jesus.
So you say 1.
Okay, so you can start.
Okay, so 1. Oh, I'm sorry. 1, 2,
3,
4,
5,
6, 7,
8,
9,
10, 11,
12, 13,
14,
15,
16, 17,
18.
19, 20. So the point is, right?
I'm already confused. Okay.
So the
Did you see where that went though? Like that was awesome. By the way,
But this is how jiu-jitsu is with me going against a higher level guy. I think I'm playing the game. I think I'm in the right spot, but it's the game is already over, right? So the second that I got 5, I won.
Right.
Because I got 5, then I got 8, then I got 11, then I got 14, then I got 17, then I got 20. But and there's guys that are really good about just funneling you into your game. And so when you talk about like sort of this inching, this suffocating, and you always end up in the same place, getting submitted or whatever that place is, it's like that's the game. And so that's the guys that are sort of at the next level, they know what they're good at. And then they work on the game that funnels everybody right into those spots, into their traps. Yeah. And it's pretty cool to see.
That's awesome.
That is awesome. So, Lena, I know you don't have a mic, but I want to ask you, do you do the jiu-jitsu?
Yeah, sort of.
Sort of?
Yeah.
What do you mean,
Today
sort of?
was my first day back in like 2.5 years.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So.
That's awesome. What prompted you to come back after 2.5 years?
I've always missed it, and I just felt like it was time to sort of go back and see what my body remembers.
So you're training with Tad?
Yeah.
That's cool. Right on, man.
Yeah, it's also probably heavily me asking her to come back and train with me. That probably had like something to do with it, but
Nice.
it was good to get her back out on the mat.
You guys friends?
Yes, we are friends.
Excellent. Excellent.
Now, do
Not
you
to be
teach-
awkward or anything.
Yeah.
Yeah. No. Well, this is my girlfriend.
Okay, there you go.
I don't know what the question is.
I didn't want to be weird about that. Is
Yeah.
this your girlfriend?
This is my awkward moment.
Excuse me for a second. Is our bathroom break still an option?
So actually, I wanted to ask you. So, do you teach all of the classes at your school, or do you have actual?
No,
other
so
instructors
we
that
have
can
other
help?
instructors, and
Okay.
so two of the adult class. So I teach one of the adult classes during the week,
Okay.
and then Vaji or Garrett Beck, he teaches two of the adult classes. We have a women's only class on Fridays, so for that class we shut the gym down. That way, if there's any restrictions, a headdress or anything, if a woman wants to be more comfortable on the
That's
mat,
genius.
we shut it down. There's no men in there, and Coach Marisha teaches those classes.
Very cool.
So we do that once a week, and we also have so a woman could sign up for just the adult package and attend those classes, or if she wanted to, she could just sign up for just the women's only classes, and that's significantly discounted from the normal rate. I'm sorry. What was the question?
I was asking about the instruction.
Oh
and
yeah. So
what
the
you-
other instructor. So Garrett Beck teaches two of the adult classes on Thursdays. And he helps me with the kids program as well.
Okay.
And he teaches the beginners and the advanced kids on Thursdays as well as the adult class. And then Marisha, who's also great with kids, she comes out and teaches a class on Tuesdays, which she's pretty humble when it comes to like her as a teacher, but she's fantastic. And it's also, you have a daughter. It's as a coach who's been around for a while, it is very significant to see the difference of how a little girl reacts to this female coach that isn't just like the best girl in the room. She's the best jiu-jitsu practitioner in the room.
Yeah.
And it's not, there's no ambiguity. They see, it's rare to find that, a female black belt that's a high level competitor that's also willing to, teach your kids. So it's like, she's amazing. And so it's also amazing for little girls to have someone like that they can look up to, where and this is one of the things that was always challenging in other places where I've taught kids is, you end up having like even number of guys and girls in the class. And honestly, typically the girls are the better students.
Really?
Yeah. They come in and they don't,
No ego.
yeah, well, it's not even about ego. It's that they come in and like boys have always been taught to be the fastest and strongest,
Yeah.
et cetera. And so that's what they apply to jiu-jitsu.
Yeah.
And it works for a while.
Yeah.
And the girls are like, well, if the teacher says that this is what we should be doing, this is what I'm going to try to do. And then once they get their fundamentals, and then they start challenging these boys with technique.
Yeah.
And then the boys realize, well, damn it, I wasted a lot of time. I could have been learning the technique.
Yeah.
And then they sort of like play catch up too. But for the girls, so you have like equal number of girls and guys in the class. And, typically they're looking around the room and they're saying, oh, like, there's one blue belt girl that comes once in a while. To see that like there isn't a future for these little girls if they want to stay with it, right? And I think it's even if you don't stay with jiu-jitsu into your adulthood, it's great from the self-defense standpoint as well as just self-confidence. But for them to see, a woman who's had so much success in the sport is incredible. And like, I wasn't even aware of the different, like I've always thought like it'd be great if we had more women in, on the mats teaching the little girls. But until I started working with her, cause I helped down with the kids program at Abmars as well. Seeing her with the kids is great. And particularly the little girls, to have a hero.
So you have partners in Alpha BJJ?
I do. I have one partner, a gentleman by the name of Ben Lanier, and he's a guy. He's one of the parents of one of my former students at another academy. Okay. And so, after I kind of decided that this is the direction that I wanted to go in, we were talking. And we were like, he's like, what are your ideas? Like, what do you want to do? And I was like, well, I'd like to build a place that doesn't have gaps for kids instruction, where if you're 12 years old and you've seen everything in the fundamentals class, there should be an advanced class for you. And if you're turning 13, you shouldn't just be dumped into the adult class, because it's like there's a gap there that we're sort of losing out, and like kids lose interest because they're like, oh well, I was king of the mats in the kids class, but this is like a different thing, and it's tough because there's not as many people making that transition right with you, so there's not as many body types that sort of fit with you on the mats. And whenever you spar, yeah, sure, you may win, but it's going to be in this sort of weird place where it's like whoever you're going against is kind of giving you the techniques and sort of walking you through, which is different than sort of a competitive sparring. So I want to make sure that like people that are interested in jiu-jitsu sort of have something for them. And we don't have as many of the adult classes as some places do, but by being an affiliate with Abmar,
you have access.
I have access, and I can say, hey, you're a really good blue belt, and I'll tell you, if you want to go to the next level, I think maybe you should consider moving over to his academy now, or at least sometimes.
Where is that located, Abmar's?
He's in Tyson's. He's right off of Tyco Road.
Oh my gosh, I know exactly the school. My wife actually works across the street from there.
Okay.
Tyson's. Wow. What kind of students does he get? He probably gets some like businessmen and women.
Well, he gets. They're all monsters though. Everybody
Really?
like in the classes that I went to when I went down there the first time. Man, it was a humbling experience.
Really?
Yeah, it's just like at most academies, you kind of you're like I'm gonna go easy today. So these are these people are the ones that I can roll light with, but still feel good about myself and practice some techniques. Those guys don't exist down there. And in a general class, I think the first class I went to, there were 4 black belts. There was like five brown belts, like 6 or 7 purple belts, maybe 4 blue belts. And then there was 1 white belt he's a blue belt now, but he wasn't a white belt even back then. He's just a very talented guy. So it's a group of guys that are just really competitive.
Killers.
Well, for those of you guys who don't know, DC, Maryland, Virginia area, Tyson's Corner is like the epicenter of money working. I mean, like it's like the Beverly Hills, or one of the Beverly Hills of this area.
It's the white collar hub of Northern Virginia. Which for those who don't know Northern Virginia, some of outside of LA and New York, it's one of the highest income earning areas that you can be in. Yes.
So when I'm asking Tad about what the students are like, I'm just like, God, he must be able to charge $300 a month out there or something, something ridiculous, just because that's the area that you're in. I don't even want to know how much it costs to even have a gym in that area. It must be insane.
Yeah, so I mean, I think he's got a pretty good spot, and I definitely don't know the numbers, but his space is like, he's actually like, in a sense, he has to increase the prices for population control because things are going so well that the mat space is just becoming overcrowded.
And one thing I can say that I've heard, okay, this is all conjecture, guys, because I haven't been to this school. Don't flame me. You can flame me. I don't care, actually. But Capital Jiu-Jitsu has always had that problem, especially out in there. I guess Alexandria, I think that's where they're at, Alexandria.
Yeah, the Alexandria Academy.
Where you go in, and again, this isn't me. I haven't been in the school. This is people I know that have been to the school, and they say, the thing that sucks about it is that there's 70 people on a mat at one time. It sucks to have to roll into, be careful because you're going to roll into people next to you, doing your technique. And
literally.
Yeah. And that's smart that you, if you have the opportunity as a business to sort of, whatever. Yeah, we have to raise our prices, but guess what? That also means that you're not going to be crowded, not get the instruction that you need to be getting, and the quality of the time that you.
It's still pretty crowded, but it's crowded in a good way, honestly. Like there's just a really good energy, and it's funny when you talk about like jiu-jitsu. I consider these guys that I share mat times with to be like super close friends. But it's funny, like when you're talking about sort of the epicenter of, wealth and making money, it's like I don't even know what half of these guys do for a living.
Because they're not allowed to tell you.
Yeah. Well, but there's that, but there's also just the like, this is like what we do our fun part. Like this is honestly what we do to get away from all the other stuff.
Yeah.
And so, it's just it's great because like so when we started to move on this space that we're in for Alpha Brazilian Jiu Jitsu, like it's like, okay, there's a lot of work to be done. And there's guys down there that, train with Abmar that are like, oh yeah, I do construction. I'll give you a very good price. And, with this, there's everybody's got nicknames, Andre, but everybody calls him Bellarico. Like he came out and like, busted his ass to get stuff done. And then there's a guy, Marco, who, he worked probably twice as hard as Bellarico did, getting all the drywall and the paint and just getting the gym ready. And it's like,
sounds like Gutterman.
Yeah. It's funny because like there was one night where it was the week before we opened. It was the night before the DC Open. I'd gone up to Maryland, actually ran into Joe Cunningham at the, there was an IBJJF like rules seminar to sort of get certified as a referee and stuff. So I went up there with Abmar to do that. And then, after we got done, we went out to dinner, drove back, and it's like 3 a.m. And so I decided, I'm just going to swing by the gym on my way home because it's between where Abmar lives. I dropped him off and my house. And so I stopped by and there's Marco like working at 3 a.m. And it's like these guys, and it's like, what does he owe me? Honestly, no, he doesn't owe me anything.
Yeah.
But like, there's a camaraderie that just jiu-jitsu builds that is really unique to the sport. And like these guys, they were fantastic. And so just a really good, team. And the idea that like, while I don't know what these guys do, but like, I didn't know what Marco did before I started, the plans to open up a gym. But as soon as I'm doing this, like there he is, just working day in, day out to sort of make this thing happen.
Sounds familiar, doesn't it?
Yeah, it's funny because like, again, in any I think a lot of good academies will have that. They'll have that sense of camaraderie, brotherhood, and just like being able to look out for each other.
Absolutely.
And when my day job can intersect with my alter ego, then that's cool, because then it's like, oh, well, I can do that for you because I do this for X, Y, and Z for a living, and we do have a lot of guys. One in particular, I don't know if he's watching right now, but Neil Johnson for Disciple MMA.
Gutterman.
The Gutterman. He basically built half of Disciple MMA in the 2 locations that we've been in. He wound up building like half of it because, he was just the one that was in that industry and was willing to do all that work, and he would be there grinding at like all hours of the evening just to put it together. And he didn't owe us anything,
right?
And it's just again out of the kindness of their heart, and because they believe in the people that they're doing it for, and they believe in the community that they're doing it for. Like that, whether it's your school, my school, whatever it is, that group of at that point, it really is your group of friends. That's really what you're doing it for. You're not doing it for any kind of monetary gain or anything like that. So.
Yeah, I'll be happy when we just get to break even, right? Because I do. I have my day job, right? Like that's how I'm going to pay my bills. But this is just, the jiu-jitsu portion of it is like, okay, I can do my thing, my rules, and sort of build this thing from the ground up and make it happen. It's funny, like when you talk about like crossover, like how can I apply my day job to this other thing? Like I do a lot of software stuff.
Yeah,
I'm a signal processing engineer, but that entails a lot of like software design and programming. So like I'm actually working on an app for like the academy to help sort of monitor and track like the students' progress. And, the thing that I'm like most excited about is when I was talking about like sort of the challenges of developing a curriculum for a class.
Yeah.
I'm building this thing up so that I can assess and identify like strengths and weaknesses of each of the students on an individual basis. But then when they log into the computer and I get the attendance for a specific class and I get the demographics for that class, I can say, oh, this class is pretty good at judo.
Yeah.
So let's not teach judo type stuff today. Let's warm up with judo stuff so they get, so I don't have to spend time necessarily instructing on the things that they're good at, but they can sort of,
Wow. So you're using.
So go back to it and do that.
He's using technology. Okay. First of all, whenever you can add an app to your business, and we see it in a lot of different, a spread of businesses, right?
Yeah.
When you can add an app to your business that that you say, okay, first of all, we all use our phones, we all use technology now. I get to use technology in order to follow. You're using it as a diagnostic tool, which is amazing,
Correct.
right? So it helps you as an instructor not waste time, be more efficient, and give them. Because how many jujitsu instructors have we talked to who they're like, yeah, programming is tough, and we get into a rhythm and we kind of figure it out. But Tad here is taking his love. Your profession, hopefully you love it too, in electrical engineering, and he's actually creating something that's going to now, mind you, anybody who's watching this, please, this is Tad's
Hyperbole.
idea. Yeah, this is no, it's not hyperbole. I only get excited about stuff that I really am. I'm not BSing you right now, but the thing that Tad's doing is an innovation in the game, because I have never heard of that before.
Yeah, using data points like that and having those
Yeah,
kinds
so
of
I mean,
analytics
it's
is just different.
And I guess I don't want to give too much away, but
Don't give too much away,
But
Tad.
the idea is basically we have a database for all the students that are at the academy, and then we have a separate database of all of the sort of techniques that
When you're done doing,
popular.
when you figure that out, get the bugs out, when you're in your final stage of that, I recommend that you market that out to other schools so that they can be using that too.
Yeah. So I'm going to sort of, alpha beta test it with my school and probably Abmar's school down in Tyson's Corner. And then, like once it's ready to go, like again, cause I think that as a jiu-jitsu person, like, jiu-jitsu, Brazilian jiu-jitsu has given me so much that like we should be looking for ways not to take from Brazilian jiu-jitsu and just make that like sort of how I make my money, how I earn my living, but how could I help Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu?
Oh, look at this.
Like that'd be cool, right? Like, I mean, and I'm not like the likelihood that I get my name put on something where it's like, oh yeah, that guy actually made a big difference in something. But it would be cool for something that's given me so much for me to be able to contribute back to it.
That's huge.
Yeah, no, that's amazing.
That's amazing. That's exciting to me just because, wow, bam, that's an innovation.
Absolutely.
I've never heard of that in my life. Not for jiu-jitsu.
No.
That's amazing. What a great idea. So when you are programming, and I just have a few more questions, and Paul might have a few questions for you too.
Yeah.
But we're hitting the end of the show here. When you train in jiu-jitsu now, how much of that is going into your everyday life? Like, I get it. You've got your job, your 9 to 5, and then you've got Alpha BJJ. But outside of that, like how much of that is kind of interfering with your life? Do you feel like it's hard for you to kind of put it all together in your life and have good balance?
I don't think so. Like, I think that it just all fits well. I mean, again, I think that there's a lot of software people that are interested in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu for the same reason. Like, it really is like you have an idea, you come up with a game plan, you write a script, you run the script. It doesn't work. Why doesn't it work? Well, there's bugs in it. So you go back and you identify these places where there are bugs, and then you start to fix those areas. And it's the same with jiu-jitsu. It's like, okay, so I got this really good idea. Today I'm going to come in and I'm going to work these sweeps and I'm going to work these submissions, and it's all going to be great. And I go in and it's not. And I say, oh, Abmar, like, why? And he's like, well, your hips. Look at your hips. You can't do this sweep with your hips outside of a base. You have to be underneath them before it's going to work. So use your right foot, walk it under, and then finish the sweep. And so again, you go back, you debug that little piece of the code, and then you run it again, and you hit a bug later. And so, like, for me, like, they're very similar. But I don't know if this is like kind of what you're asking, but I don't really see it as too much of, an interference or like a distraction. This is what I like to do. And so,
do you have any other? Is there anything else in your life besides jiu-jitsu that you're really passionate about?
I do woodworking. I do a lot of like side projects with like Raspberry Pis and like programming type stuff. But lately it's been almost 99% jiu-jitsu because opening up a school is difficult. Like, it's time consuming. Nobody told me how much. Well, Abmar told me how much time it was going to take. But
well, what's your week look? What's your usual week look like as far as what you're doing?
Yeah, so I get up and then get up, go into work about, 7 or 8, and then I'm there until, depending on when the class is. So on Mondays, I go to work for, my 8.5 hours, then I'm out, and then I teach the 4 and 5-year-olds, then the 6 to 12-year-olds, and then, the teen class, and then I participate in the adult class because, again, I have to keep learning. On Tuesdays, I'm not there for the drilling and the spar class. I'm there for the advanced kids class, but after that, I drive down to Tyson's Corner so that I can continue to be coached by Abmar because I need to learn. I need to keep learning.
Right.
And so it's basically, my 9 to 5 and then, 4 hours of jiu-jitsu afterward. So it turns out to be, like a 60 plus hour week if you don't count, sweeping, mopping the mats and everything after class, because that's the other thing. People don't like staph infection. They want
Really?
It's just
Not a fan, huh?
yeah.
Who cleans the mats?
I clean them. Well, so I mean, whoever's there, like I
The
think,
white belts, man. The answer is the white belts.
No, so that's a thing that I've always like. It's funny because when I started jiu-jitsu, that's the way it is. It's the white belts, and I hated it. I don't think I ever cleaned a mat as a white belt because I was like a little bit entitled or whatever. Right? It's bad, but I was like, I pay you money to come here, not to be a janitor.
Right.
And then once I got a little bit older, I was like, oh, you know what? Like, I want to have clean mats, and I want to do my part, to make the gym better. So I started cleaning the mats, and now that like I own a gym, like I almost have to I almost want to take the vacuum away from people to clean it up, because I want. If I don't care about how clean it is, like how can that get passed on? Yeah. And if that is contagious and other people start caring that my gym, they want the gym to be as clean as I want the gym,
right?
And they start doing that, then great. But it's kind of like they need to see that.
Lead by example.
They need to see me do that,
yeah. Right?
It's like when I do even warm ups, right? Like when I run warm ups in an adult class, like I have to do them. Like I feel like it's like I'm cheating my class if I don't do the warm-ups and I just tell them. You know what I mean? So it's like it's always for me like you say, be one of the students while you're sort of leading by example, and then I think it's a lot easier for people to relate to you. And not to mention that like there've been days where I've been tired or whatever, and so I'll just, or it's my third class, so I'm not going to do the warm-ups in this class. So, you'll start saying things. You're like, oh, people are getting more tired today. Or I jump in and I'm doing the warm-ups. I'm like, oh, it's a lot more humid in here today than I thought it was. Like these warm-ups that I had planned are too hard. So, we're going to scale it back. So I think it's just good to be in touch with what's happening in your class.
That's actually really good. Same thing when I would do the warm ups with the class, as opposed to some instructors walk away and go, okay, finish this up or whatever. I can see how hard it is, so that I have a gauge of how hard is it for, because it's easy for you as a instructor if you're watching them go, come on, keep going. You want to be like that, but you realize you're dealing with human beings too. Like treat them like human beings.
Yes.
You don't want to be easy on anybody, but you also don't want to be overly tough either. And especially with kids too, man. I mean, I imagine that kids will. There's two sides to kids, right? Either they'll be all about it and 100%, 110%, or the slightest thing will kind of throw them off training and be like, oh, I don't like it. It sucks. I don't want to do it anymore.
Yeah, well, with the kids, it's fun for them because, like, when I do the warm-ups with the kids, it's like they see me doing them, and they see me doing, like, the bear crawls or, the rabbit runs or whatever the floor exercise is, and they see me going at it, and not just, like, they see how technically I'm doing it, but then they also see the intensity that I'm doing with, and then, there are kids that are like, they want to beat Coach Tad to the other end of the mat. They want to be, they want to challenge themselves to sort of catch up, And so I think that, that's good too. And also if you're new, it's helpful to be like, okay, what's a duck walk? He showed it to me, but it's also good to be able to watch, know where in the room to watch, to understand how to get more insight into how to do that technique.
Right. Exactly. Yeah. Let people, kind of get a visual. Most learners are visual. I learned this. There used to be the common knowledge was you've got kinesthetic learners and visual learners and auditory learners, but I think it was 10 or 15 years ago that was all debunked. It's like, no, everybody is a visual learner. Yes, some people kind of are geared more towards kinesthetic or auditory, but really everybody is visual. Everybody that has sight is a visual learner. So always have your training be at least visual, and then add on to that as well. So that's great. I want to say what's up to Scott watching, Chris Valentine as always, and Kenny Gadro, good to go, who will hopefully be on the show soon. Actually,
You do realize his name is pronounced Goudreau, right?
What do I say? Gadro?
Gaudreau.
Gaudreau?
I don't know. It's just really.
How do I say it?
Gadro, and it's really you're mangling. Excuse me, you're mangling it, and it's killing me. So I'm like, it's good.
It's because he's French, and I don't respect the French, but sorry, Kenny. Goudreau.
Yes.
Goudreau. I'll just call him Good to Go because I speak English pretty well.
There we go.
All right, Good to Go. What's up to you, buddy? I had one more question, and let me see if I can remember what it was, because now after I got my French lesson, better than Gaudreau. Well, you don't know until you try, Kenny. You might like it better. I don't know. Tad, and thank you for that, because I remember my question now.
Perfect.
Is this it? Like, and I don't want it to sound like that. I'm not saying it like bad thing, but is this where you want to go? Are you going to quit your 9 to 5 to do this? And is this where you see yourself 15, 20 years from now training?
So yeah, I mean, I don't see, so, for the people that I work with that are watching this, and the programs that I lead, no, I'm not going to quit my 9 to 5. But no, this is what I love to do. And so long as I can do both, I'll do it, but this is something that I thoroughly enjoy, and again, I don't know how much money there is to be made doing this as far as like supporting, house, car payments, etc. But again, that's not kind of the reason why I'm doing it. So, but yeah, I mean, this is what I want to be doing. And so for me, Alpha Brazilian Jiu Jitsu is like, it's this first step. It's since I started training Jiu Jitsu, and I've always, liked coaching kids and adults. I think I do a pretty good job coaching adults too. I've, pretty much talked about kids mostly, but I really enjoy this. And it's also just, the people that you train with end up being the people that you spend the most time with, the people that you hang out with.
Right.
And, like I said, like today, I started like a Facebook group like a while back, and we do this like BJJ brunch and board games deal. And we've been doing it on Sundays. And typically, before the academy was open, I just had people come over to my basement. And so we'd roll around for an hour and a half. Then we go upstairs and we cook breakfast, and then we play some board games or video games or whatever, and just kind of hang out. Yeah. Like, it's cool because you get people from all walks of life in jiu-jitsu. And for me, hanging out with engineers all the time, I mean, they're fine people, but like there's so many more experiences that are out there that it's cool to just be exposed to. And like, the guys that, like Justin Lowe, he was a guy that like when I moved up here, he became like instantly one of my best friends because of just like, his life was so different than mine. It was so interesting, like just the way, like what he was doing and where he was going. He had the best stories, and it was just kind of cool to be around that. So like, I hope that like people, start to get those experiences when they start doing jiu-jitsu with me at my academy. And it's like, oh yeah, like, the one time that, this thing happened. So yeah, it's like, it's where I want to be. And I find myself like, even when I'm like at home or whatever, I'm like, oh, you know what? I kind of wish I was at the gym, like hanging out. And so it's got like a really good positive vibe right now.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, I mean, I think this is it. It's to answer your question.
That's a great,
yes.
that's a great answer. I mean, and the idea that, you don't have to quit your 9 to 5 job to help facilitate, create that place, that it just sounds so good, man. Whenever you have a school where you want to be there because the vibes are so good.
Yeah.
Because there's awesome people there that are trying to help you become a better version of yourself. Nothing
can't
better.
Beat that, dude.
You can't beat that.
By the way, what's going on? Good to go.
Good to go. And that's all I'm going to call you. He's Irish, by the way. Yeah, but that ain't an Irish name, is it? That's a French name, Dagnabbit. It's got too many vowels in it. All right. So anyway, I just want to say I really enjoyed having Tad here
Yeah,
today.
this has been awesome.
And of course, Lena, thank you for coming as well. You got to come back at some point, because we'd love to, keep an eye on what's going on with you guys. And if you guys, if you have one thing I love, if you have any stars that are coming out of your academy or one of the academies that you're affiliated with, we'd love to know, because like I said, we're bringing shine to the DMV area specifically, and there is no shine without stars that are really, advancing the sport.
Absolutely.
Right. So,
Absolutely.
So please keep us in the loop there, and I'd love to have you again if you're
No,
interested.
that'd be great. This has been a lot of fun.
Good.
Yeah, on the drive out here, Lena was like, "So, like, how do you know?" And I was like, "Well, so here's the thing. I don't really know him that well, but this has been great. Like, you guys, easy to talk to, and
Yeah.
like, it's very natural.
Yeah, we try to keep it that way.
It was very cool.
Keep
Like
it
I said, I
conversational.
thoroughly enjoyed myself.
Good.
And I may be able to find some people that would be interested in coming out here and talking
That'd be
about
great.
jiu-jitsu. So
Awesome. That would be That's what we want, man.
It would be crazy if we could do a kids edition one day where we interview like one of your stud younger competitors.
yeah.
That would be kind of cool.
That
to
would
have,
be
like,
cool.
a kids edition.
So the kids get crazy around like so one thing that Marisha does down at the Admar Barbosa school is she does like testimonies and stuff, and it's like you get these kids that are very charismatic, and you put them in front of a camera or microphone and they get so nervous and so shy, but it's pretty cool. But yeah, I could definitely find some kids that would be willing to come on the show and talk.
My business, Vicar Studios, that's my 9 to 5. We do we have a lot of different types of clientele, and we do a lot of marketing videos and things.
Okay.
Which is number one nowadays, especially with how people get their content now on their phones and stuff and tablets and all that. And I did a shoot yesterday at a cheerleading facility. So
Okay.
they do competitive cheer, and it is hilarious. Like, you'd think that all cheerleaders would be 100% in front of the camera, just nuts, like, and have that personality. But like you said, not all kids are the same. Some kids, they see a camera and they're like, oh, they clam up. They don't want to say anything. And then other kids, you have to like push their heads out of the way of the lens. Like, can you please?
It's like, okay, enough.
Yeah. So, I mean, that's one of those things that we are 100%. We know that's the way that it is. But like I said, if you have any stars, or if you have, and adults too, because again, Tad doesn't just train kids.
Yeah.
But he is doing a service, I think, to a lot of parents out there that want their kids to learn jiu-jitsu in a safe, fun environment, but actually learn real jiu-jitsu. Again, his spot, you can find them alphajj.com, right? Phone number.
Oh, I don't know the phone number off the top. It's on Google.
Don't
you
worry.
can find it on Google.
Find them on Google. Check out that. They're on Facebook. And then, of course, you guys that are watching the show and helping support the work that we do, you guys can go to www.patreon.com/Fight Game Podcast. There, you guys have the opportunity to become a patron of the show. So for as little as $1 or $2 a month, you actually get all of the footage that we have here, the shows, the stuff that we're planning on doing, giveaways we're actually going to start doing. There's a ton of stuff, and on top of that, you're supporting the show and making sure that we get to have this awesome content for people that actually care about the fight game, combat arts, combat sports. People like Tad, of course, Paul Sichering. You get to see his lovely face and suit that he wears. You're wearing a tie today.
I did.
I
bring the tie
appreciate
back
that.
today.
I do appreciate that.
Oh, thank you.
I mean, obviously, Tad was looking at you more. I think I need to wear a tie more. But anyway, guys, definitely please help support the show. That's a wonderful way you can. And of course, as always, like, share, subscribe, and all that good stuff. Thank you guys for the show. Thank you, Tad, for coming on.
Thank you very much for having me. It's been an honor.
Lena, thank you for being a supporting girlfriend. Are we allowed to say that on the show?
Yes.
Excellent. Good job, Tad, by the way. Paul, thank you as always for hosting the show.
No worries, man.
All right,
Love
guys.
being here.
Peace out.
Thank you.
Thank you.